Hello, my name is Justin Daly, and this is my audience. So for my informative speech, I decided to do it on the Zodiac Killer. I wanted to do this one because I find the case very interesting, and what I'm going to be talking about are the victims, what happened to them, and the various ciphers and letters that were sent to different news outlets. The first confirmed killings of the Zodiac were Robert Dominguez and Linda Edwards. Now, Robert and Linda were your typical teenagers who were just participating in another senior ditch day. So what they did is that they went to a local state park and were planning on going to a beach there. But when Robert and Linda didn't come back home later that week, Robert's father went out to go and find them, and what he found was their two dead bodies in this rundown shack here. Now, Robert had 11 gunshot wounds in his body, and Linda had about 9. They were also bound by their hands and feet, laying on their stomachs, and it looked like there was evidence of the victim trying to burn their bodies. These were the first confirmed Zodiac killings. The next ones happened on December 20th, 1968 on Lake Herman Road. Lake Herman Road was a hot spot for teenagers because they would go there just to hang out. And the two victims were Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday. Now before this, people were reporting a suspicious vehicle coming up and down Lake Herman Road. And later that night, they found Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday's bodies on the side of the road. Betty Lou Jensen had 5 gunshot wounds in her body and was dead at the scene, while David Faraday had a gunshot wound to the head but was still breathing. Unfortunately, later that night, he had succumbed to his wounds. On July 4th, 1969, was the death of Darlene Ferrin. Her and her current boyfriend at the time, Mike Mageau, were again going to another hot spot of the town, which was kind of like a lover's lane. And what had happened was Mike, who was the surviving victim of this encounter, described a black Cadillac that kept coming up and down the road, just like the one at Lake Herman. The car had finally stopped behind their car and it was shining a flashlight through their car so that they couldn't see who it was. Now, Mike at the time thought it was just a policeman who was stopping them, but what later happened is that the man who was shining the light in the car started opening fire on them in their car. Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, had sustained multiple gunshot wounds and was again dead at the scene, but Mike Mageau had a gunshot wound to the knee, had one to the shoulder, and had one to the neck. And again, he is the only one who survived. Now, this is the first cipher that was sent to 3 different news outlets on July 31st, 1969. This one was sent to the San Francisco Chronicle, this one was sent to the Vallejo Times-Herald, and this one was sent to the San Francisco Examiner. Now, what the Zodiac had also sent with this was a statement saying that if they didn't print these ciphers in their newspapers, he would go out and kill more people. So what they did is that they entertained it and they printed them onto their papers. Now, this first cipher here was decoded by Donald and Betty Hardin, who were just school teachers who were just doing it just for the fun of it. And this is what it translates to. Now, you can't really see it that well, but under each of these symbols is a letter that accompanies that symbol. And this is what kind of gave the police a look into the mind of who they're working with. The first line itself chilled a lot of the detectives to the bone, which was, "I like killing people because it's so much fun," which then the next line actually further enhances that statement, where he just says, "I like killing people because it's so much fun, and it's even more fun than hunting wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of them all." Now, most people read that line and didn't think anything of it, but a lot of keen-eyed people saw it and noticed that it was actually a quote from a famous short story called "The Most Dangerous Game." And that whole story is about a man who likes hunting people because it's fun. Now, later on in the middle of this cipher, there's actually also statements that suggest that the Zodiac Killer gets sexual pleasure from killing people, because he later says it is even more fun than getting your rocks off with a girl. To further prove that this is truly the mind of a demented man, later on he also says that the people he kills will become his slaves when he is reborn in paradise, which means after he dies, he's going to go to his own personal heaven, and all the people who he killed are going to be his personal slaves. And another interesting thing about this cipher is that these last 18 symbols down here, each letter that accompanies it is just a random letter. It doesn't form a sentence. It doesn't form a single word. It's just random letters. And a lot of people have theorized that this is actually an anagram for the killer's identity. This is the first Zodiac letter where he addresses himself as the Zodiac. And a recurring theme in each of his letters is just him boasting about how untouchable he is and that the police are never going to catch him. And he's also taunting the police for their poor job at handling the case. Specifically in this one, he talks about the previous two murders, the one at Lake Herman and the other one, and he again gives details that only the killer would know, such as the brand of the ammo and other stuff like that. And so this was the next confirmed Zodiac killing, which happened to Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. Now, Brian Hartnell was, again, the only person who survived this encounter. Cecilia Shepard and Brian were at Lake Berryessa on a single little small island that it wasn't anything like out in the middle of the lake, but it was an easy to get to thing. And Cecilia started to notice a suspicious looking man from the top of the hill who was coming down towards them. This is actually a drawing of what Brian said the killer looked like. And what actually happened is that he walked up to them at gunpoint, he robbed them, took their money and their keys, and then he bound them by their hands and feet, and then he proceeded to stab them while they were on the ground. Brian was stabbed 6 times in the back, and Cecilia was stabbed multiple times in the back and in the front. And that car door was the Zodiac drawing all the killings that he's done. And this is the last confirmed killing of the Zodiac, was the death of Paul Stein, who was a cab worker who picked up the Zodiac, and then when they got to their destination, Zodiac asked him to go a little further, to which then he grabbed him by the collar and shot him in the back of the head. And so this is one of the last known letters of the Zodiac, which is where he threatens to shoot out tires of a school bus and kill the kids that are coming out of it. And at the end of that, he also has schematics for a bomb. And also in this one, to have him prove that he's the one who killed Paul Stein, he had cut off a piece of Paul Stein's shirt after he killed him and put it in the envelope with it. So we may never know who the Zodiac is because this man was never caught. There have been leads towards who it is, but there has never been a solid person who has been arrested. He could be walking among us to this day, or he could be long dead by now. My name is Justin Daly. Here's my audience.